Welcome into Tiger Talks Wrestling. I am your host, Tony. Hello, everybody. For the first time, perhaps 3 times this week, you get to see my face and get to hear from us here at Tiger Talks Wrestling. Your host, Tony, joined today by Busta Boy for this week in review for WWE and AEW.
Oh, yeah.
Welcome
And, yeah, it's Shirtless Wonder here. Hi, everybody. But I don't have the camera on, so you can't see me.
You can't see
I'm
me.
super hyper. Yeah, you literally can't see me.
All right. Don was going to be joining us, but he's feeling a little under the weather, so he'll be joining us through comments. So, for anybody watching, wondering where John's at. Woo!
Yeah, and your boy here is not sick anymore, so you ain't got to hear me coughing every 2 seconds.
That's a good thing. So,
me not being sick, that's not a bad thing. That's a good thing.
Right? Where we left off last week, after we did 2 shows that we're starting with today is NXT Vengeance Day. Wow, I almost said NXT TakeOver. Shame on me. That hasn't been a thing in over a year. So, we'll kick off with Vengeance Day. What's that?
I said, imagine still calling them takeovers in 2023.
Right. And John says that's my job now, the coughing. That's why you don't have to worry about it now. Back on chat. All right. So anyhow, NXT Vengeance Day took place last Saturday from Charlotte, North Carolina. The first time in over 1,000 days that NXT had a premium live event on the road. One of the things that they mentioned right away. Quite the interesting opening video they had for the show, having Charlotte just talk about, kind of preview the matches and talk about the history of NXT. It was unique, and I think it put a nice spin onto things, especially, I mean, it made sense with Charlotte being from Charlotte, of course. So,
oh, yeah.
Nice to bring her into the fold there. We get Wes Lee coming out first, the NXT North American champion, as he's set to defend the NXT North American Championship against Dijak. And I personally felt like they had a really, really good match. Sometimes you get some of these matches where you get a big guy and a small guy and they don't really gel that well together. But these 2 guys put on quite the clinic. One thing I do want to mention before we go too far into the match, and I didn't even realize it when I was watching it, but Dijak was wearing a jacket that said "Reach for the Sky" on the back of it, and he is actually going to auction that off and donate all the money to Jay Briscoe's family, which is pretty cool.
Oh, yeah, indeed. Good match. Wrong result.
You think so?
Okay. I'm not a big fan of Wesley. You know what I mean? Like, for a lot of reasons. Like, his whole reason for being pushed just did not sit well with me. You know what I mean? The reasoning behind it, you know? Like, more specifically, the reasoning behind it. And it's like, and I think he's really good, but just, I don't know, he's missing something. And I feel like he needs a little bit more time.
Perhaps.
And I think him losing the belt would be great. Like, I felt like Dijak needed the win here. I think he needed it more. Wesley didn't need the win.
Fair point. John says in the comment section, "What a guy," about Dijak donating the money, any money that he gets for the jacket, to Jay Briscoe's family. He's right. That is a great move by Dijak. Of course, Dijak, if anybody didn't know, used to be in Ring of Honor, so he knew the Briscoes quite well, I'm sure. So,
I mean, anyone who has been in Ring of Honor, I'm sure knows exactly who the Briscoe brothers are. You know what I mean? Right. Or have heard something about the Briscoes. They're originals.
Yep. Day one.
Mm-hmm. Down since day one.
John's opinion on it was, I thought the match could have gone to an extra cylinder, but great match overall. That was pretty good. I like that they both got their spots in. I mean, Dijak controlled the action for a good chunk of the match. Wesley got his advantages in there. Now, what you might not agree with Wesley winning, I kind of would have, if I did the prediction show, which I didn't take the time to, probably would have went with Wesley retaining here, but I do see Wes losing the title probably sooner rather than later. I just don't think it's Dijak he's losing it to. I think it's somebody else who got involved and kind of helped Wesley win this match that he'll lose it to.
Yeah. Okay. Side rant here, not too big of a rant, but that goes with my freaking issue in general with the title, the North American title. It just yo-yos way too much.
Yes and no.
Like, I think they just put some of the same championship holders on there that go for it or are on it. That they put the strap on them a little too much.
Well, I somewhat disagree with you on that, because I feel like the next person's going to be a first-time ever champion as well. You make it sound like it'd be somebody who's held it before. But
like, I don't know. Again, I can't really comment a lot on it because I don't watch enough of it to, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But from what I've gathered, it's just, I feel like sometimes they just need to choose the champions a little bit better.
So for anybody who didn't see this match, break down the end of it. Wesley went for a dive on Dijak on the outside of the ring. Dijak, towards the end of it, I should say. I'm not going to say everything that happened at the end. This is pretty much the end, though. Dijak stepped out of the way. Wesley went into the barricade. Then Dijak grabs a chair, sits Wesley on there, and used a broom to keep Wesley trapped in the chair. And Dijak climbed up to the top rope, did a moonsault off the top, but Wesley wasn't there because he was pushed out the way by Tony D'Angelo and Stax, chaining Lorenzo, who took the bullet there, and then Wesley ended up. The match went a little bit longer, but at the end of it, Wesley managed to hit his finisher, and we got out of his finish. Actually, I think it happened just before the finish from when I watched it. When I seen I hit the wrong one. My bad.
Yeah, dude, I agree with John here. It's got to be Tony D'Angelo. He's got to win. Like, D'Angelo is hot right now. Like, you know how I feel about Tony D'Angelo. It took me a while.
Will be the next NXT North American champion.
Like, it took me a while to really get behind D'Angelo. I wasn't the biggest fan at first, but after I got to know his gimmick a little bit better, loved it.
Right. So anyway, like I said, I think this happened just before Wesley hit his finisher. But as you can see, Dijak's middle finger definitely wasn't how it's supposed to be here.
Oh, yeah.
John says that looks like it hurt. I'm sure it did hurt a hell of a lot. Wesley covered Dijak. That's the way Dijak was seen afterwards. He did go and get x-rays, and I think I seen he just dislocated his finger. He didn't actually break it, surprisingly. But he was in pain, I'm sure. Wesley got the win, retains the title. Like I said, I feel like D'Angelo's going to be the one to eventually take it, but this still looks to me like it's going to end up being a triple threat match at some point between those three guys because there's definitely unfinished business with all three of them.
As I call D'Angelo, Tony Perillo.
That'll probably be, I'm thinking, a triple threat match for the North American title at Stand and Deliver WrestleMania weekend. WrestleMania Saturday.
That's when Tony D'Angelo is going to win it. I'm calling it.
Yep, that's what I feel. As long as that's the match that takes place, that's what I'm thinking as well. All right. So from that match, go on, did a couple of videos, showed the challenger and champion for the main event showing up. Mackenzie Mitchell talked to the tag champs in the back just before the match. Fallon Henley and Kiana James with Brooks Jensen and Josh Briggs in their corner went against Caden Carter and Katana Chance for the NXT Women's Tag Team titles. It was an all right match, I felt like. I'm not a huge fan of them throwing two random people together as a tag team and having their second match be a title match. Maybe that's just me, but... And then the worst part of it is Caden and Katana, the longest reigning women's tag team champions in WWE, lose the tag team titles here to Kiana and Fallon. John says underwhelming. Yes, this match was kind of underwhelming, I would say.
Bad move. I think this was a very bad move on their part because now, thanks to that, the tag team belts and the former tag team champs have lost all credibility now. Like you've held that title for a long time. You've built them up to be decent champs, right? You got a little bit of something going on where they care, and you go and mess it up by having your longest reigning champions lose to two nobodies.
Pretty much.
It just didn't make sense. Like they've only been together for a cup of coffee. Why are you losing to you're beating like teams that are bigger than you, that's been around longer than you, and then you lose to some nobody? That doesn't make sense.
Right. I agree. I mean, they did cheat to win the tag titles too, but unbeknownst to Fallon. But still, it was wrong. I agree, wrong move. Transitional champions is what John's saying. You're trying to say.
Yeah. And it sucks that you put your longest reigning champs as your transitional champs, which is so bad. I'm hoping that they get the titles back, and even if they get it back, it won't matter because they've lost credibility because of that. Just the fact that you lost.
Right.
Shouldn't have lost in the first place.
I mean, I have a little bit more to say about that situation when we get to NXT with what happened on NXT with the former champs, but we'll get to that later. From there, I mean, it looked like Caden and Katana were going to win, and then they almost had it won at different points, but yeah. From there, they'd go on, show a couple other videos, showed Gulak and Hank Walker talking in the PC as they were doing a watch along from the PC with a bunch of the people. They actually showed it. A Valkyrie video, her saying that she wants some action and she'll be ready for anybody this upcoming week on NXT. Then we move into the 2 out of 3 falls match between the A champ, Carmelo Hayes, Everybody knows my favorite in NXT. And Apollo Crews, but the entrances alone for these two guys were outstanding. Trick Williams mentioning all the accolades for Carmelo leading up to his entrance was just great. And I've seen some people mentioning, hey, can you just imagine what an entrance like this would be for Melo at a WrestleMania? And I honestly don't think we'll have to wait too long, maybe a year, and you probably see Melo at Mania.
Yeah, which I'll get to that later when we get to talking about the other news. I'll get to a few other things later.
To do with
the
Mania?
NXT. Yeah, like not just Carmelo Hayes, but there's some other things that happen. Something happened on a show called Main Event.
Oh, sure. I don't catch.
I'll talk about that later.
Yeah. But anyways, we get this 2 out of 3 falls match, and a lot of things happen that are very noteworthy in this match. They went a long time really into this match before you actually got the first fall, longer than most 2 out of 3 falls matches go.
Yeah.
But these two had great
traditional 2 out of 3 falls match. Like,
oh hell no,
it wasn't. The heel gets the first fall, and then the face makes a dramatic comeback for like 2 falls.
Right. Nah, and I thought it was a great 2 out of 3 falls match between these two guys. These two have great chemistry. I mean, they showed it before in their matches that they've had before this even, but this was their best match, I would say, that they had. I mean, they only had one singles match technically. I mean, when Apollo got his win back, it was in a tag team match. So, but I still feel like this was the best match that these two had against each other so far. Will it be the last? For now, yes, I think so. For good, probably not. I won't talk too much about what happened throughout the matches, but I'll mention the first fall came when Apollo Crews had been working on Melo's rib cage area for the most part of the match. I'll mention that first. But Carmelo did eventually get Apollo Crews locked into the crossface in the middle of the ring, and Apollo Crews did tap out for the first time. I think that's the first time Melo's actually used that to get a victory of any sort, honestly. He's used it before, but he's never gotten a win out of it. He rarely uses the crossface. Was there any spot before that first fall that you felt like was worth mentioning? I mean, there's one little thing I know. It was interesting on the outside of the ring anyway.
I was too busy just trying to pick my jaw off the floor.
Yeah.
But the match was just too good.
Right?
Like that whole match, the pacing, it's hard to pick out just one spot.
That's true.
And honestly, it's really hard to pick out just one spot.
Right.
Like the first 10 minutes of the match could be one big spot.
True. I mean, I have to mention one part. You see Trick Williams at one point pull a chair out from under the ring, and the announcers even comment on it. He could get Melo disqualified here, and all he does is just sits the chair down and sits in it. And then at one point, after Apollo hits a big move on Carmelo, you see Trick actually praying, kneeling down next to the chair. Like, alrighty. You can't talk about a Carmelo match without mentioning something that Trick does on the outside, for that matter. Trick would get a little bit involved as the match went on, but he didn't play a big factor into either one of the 2 falls. However, we will just go right into it. It took a little while to get to the second fall as well, not quite as long as the first fall, but it looked like Apollo had things going his way to get that second fall. Trick did get a little involved, but Trick got up on the apron and pulled back down by the former Commander Aziz, now going back to his original name of Dabba-Kato. Comedic relief. So it was interesting to see Dabba-Kato back. We'll get more into that in a minute, but
you have a Dabba-Kato.
But that kind of cost Apollo the match, having Dabba-Kato out there and help. Thank goodness John says that he went back to Dabba-Kato, I guess, maybe? We'll see. But anyway, Apollo did the fist bump with Kato, and then that led to Carmelo getting a shot in and hitting the leg scissors kick off the top rope for the 1-2-3. Clean sweep for Carmelo Hayes over Apollo Crews. I want to say first time possibly since MVP took 2 out of 3 straight from Chris Benoit back in 2007 in a 2 out of 3 falls match. I think this is the first time since then that we've seen 2 fall only take place in a 2 out of 3 falls match.
Now, I thought we were going to go with the traditional face match, but no.
Right? Same here. I mean, not necessarily I would have picked Apollo to take the second and third fall both. I would still would have went with Carmelo winning, but which I think is the best move that Carmelo won this, because he's, no offense to Apollo Crews, but I just still feel like Carmelo Hayes is the one on the up and up, so as to speak here. He's going up places more so than Crews is.
I think that they are doing with Carmelo Hayes what they tried to do with Apollo Crews. But Carmelo has something that Apollo Crews doesn't have. I think he has more charisma, more natural charisma.
I would definitely agree with that.
Him being a dickhead to the crowd feels natural.
Right?
Like with Randy Orton, right? You can just look at him and want to smack him in the mouth.
Sometimes, yes.
But they just have that look. And that's that's key. That's important. With Apollo Crews, he just doesn't look like, he just looks like your generic good guy.
Pretty much. I think I would agree.
Like when they build him up to be like an athlete, I didn't believe it at all. I'm like, so you can flip. Good for you, man. What can you do now?
So then after the match, Dabba-Kato gets back in the ring, helps Apollo Crews up. It looked like we had a reunion between him and Apollo. Only for Dabba to knock Apollo back down, pick him up, and chokeslam him onto the steel chair that was still in the ring. So Dabba-Kato turned on Apollo Crews. The match overall, really great. I felt like it was the match of the night. I know we haven't talked about all the matches yet, but to me, it was the match of the night.
Definitely. I feel like that ending with Kato doing that to Apollo Crews, it felt out of place. It felt like it was supposed to be somewhere else.
You think so?
I feel like it would have made more sense for him to do that during the match.
Possibly.
Not after he already lost. I'm like, dude, you already lost. What are you trying to prove?
I mean, if they would have wanted to, I feel like they could have ran maybe a little while with them two back together in NXT and then have him eventually turn on Apollo Crews. That would have made more sense. I mean, these guys haven't been together in 7-8 months now. So not everybody is going to recognize Dabba-Kato as being with Apollo, in my opinion. But it is what it is.
They're definitely going to feud. They're definitely going to feud going into Stand and Deliver.
Yeah, I'd agree. From there, they went into a couple more videos. Valentina Feroz, however the crap they pronounce her name, and Wendy Chu talking from the PC. Valentina wants a match with Lyra Valkyria. Elektra Lopez pops in there too, because Elektra's trying to get Valentina to start cheating pretty much in her matches, and Wendy's trying to keep her up and up. See the new tag champs celebrating backstage, yada yada. Then we get the preview video, get the video of Andre Chase hyping up being back in North Carolina where he's from, leading up to the fatal 4-way match for the NXT Tag Team titles. We got Duke Hudson and Andre Chase from Chase University with Thea Hale in their corner going up against Kit Wilson, Elton Prince, Pretty Deadly, and Wolfgang and Mark Coffey, and of course the tag team champs Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods in the New Day. This was I'm not even sure what word to put here for this match. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't great either. In my opinion, anyway. I felt like it was good, I guess would be the best place to put it. But there was a lot of chaos throughout, and maybe that was for the better in a way. But I was very surprised by how the ending came about, to be honest. Or who took the fall in the ending.
Well,
I
was just glad the match was over, to be honest.
Yeah.
I felt like there was too much going on.
Maybe that's what the issue was with me.
I think there was too much. It was good. Like, don't worry. Controlled chaos, that's awesome and all. But where is it going?
Right.
When there's too much going on and you can't pay attention to the match. And then next thing you know, you hear the ref 1, 2, 3, and I'm like, oh shit, what? Who won?
Right.
When the answer should be right in front of you.
Yeah.
It's like there was just too much going on. I felt like they rushed this a little bit.
That's possible. I mean, I'm happy that Gallus.
It would have been better. So go ahead.
I'm happy that Gallus took the titles and won the match, but it's just weird. What I don't understand is Pretty Deadly hit Kofi with spilt milk on the outside of the ring, and then they go back into the ring, show in the ring that Gallus is beating up on Xavier. It takes them a minute before they hit their finish on him. Where the hell was Pretty Deadly to stop the 3 count? Because they weren't taken out by anybody. They had just taken Kofi out on the outside. You know? That's the part I didn't understand.
It just felt like that video game. It felt like a 2K video game where the AI is so busy beating up the freaking each other on the outside, they just ignore your pin.
Right? That's a good comparison.
That's what it felt like.
But Gallus Boys back on top in NXT anyways. I think a lot of people were hoping that Andre Chase and Duke Hudson would have won since they were back in Andre's hometown, but I'm glad that didn't happen, honestly. I was surprised that Xavier Woods took the pin, though. I mean, it makes sense because New Day just wanted to go out of NXT, I'm sure, doing the honors for somebody. But, which, might I add, Charlotte Flair didn't do that when she was the NXT Women's Champion and lost it in a triple threat match. Just putting that out there. Anyway, that's the last I'll say about that match for now.
I felt like they held those titles for far too long. I didn't feel like it was necessary for them to hold the belts.
Well, they had them for 2 months, not even 2 months.
That's 2 months too long. I don't feel, in my opinion, I feel like the New Day is above that. You know what I mean?
Well, they took those titles and showed them off on national television on Fox and other shows. So I understand kind of what they're doing with it. They're trying to get more exposure to NXT.
But I feel like they didn't really need to. I felt like there could have been a better not a better tag team, but I felt like they could have had another tag team do that.
John says Gallus won. That's all that matters.
Time for them to go to the main roster and get buried.
I hope not when they eventually do.
Me either, but we know how
hopefully pretty soon. We don't really yet. I mean, Triple H is in control now, not Vince, so don't know how he's going to book the NXT guys. But anyway, let's move on from that, shall we? The next match we go into is a triple threat match for the NXT Women's Championship. You got Toxic Attractions, Gigi Dolan and JC Jane versus Roxanne Perez for the title. A lot of things happen in this match. You see Toxic Attraction teaming up on Roxanne for a good majority of it, but there's a few times where there's a little miscue or perhaps not miscue where Gigi or JC kind of hurt each other. All leading to the end of the match where we get a table on the outside of the ring. Looked like Toxic Attraction was going to put Roxanne through it, but Roxanne was able to fight it off. They get up to the top rope. Roxanne does, and JC up there with her. Gigi Dolan from the outside goes up trying to stop what's possible to happen off the top. Gets kicked off and goes through that table. I might be skipping other spots you might want to mention during the match, which you can do afterwards, but I'm just going right into the finish. We see then from the second rope a pop rocks to JC Jane. 1, 2, 3. Roxanne Perez retains the NXT Women's Championship, which I wasn't surprised because I had mentioned multiple times leading up to NXT Vengeance Day. I did not see Roxanne losing the title in her first defense here at all.
Well, I guess we can say that is the end of Vince McMahon Project number 90 million.
I guess you could, but there's a little more, there's a bow to tie on that when we get to NXT.
One word to describe it. Predictable. I knew everything that was going to happen. I knew it was going to happen. They were going to team up on her, and eventually they're going to turn on each other, and that's what happened.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That part was pretty predictable, yes.
But predictability isn't always bad. I enjoyed the match. Honestly,
it was a good match.
Mm-hmm.
It was pretty good.
The good news is I had plenty of refreshments when I watched that, so I didn't have to go get some.
Yeah.
So I went to watch that. It wasn't bad.
Right?
It was good.
Yeah, crowd seemed a little bit split. They were rooting for either the champ, Roxanne Perez, or Gigi Dolan, though. There wasn't a single person in there. It didn't sound like cheering for JCJ, which might play a little bit into what happened on NXT, but we'll get into that in a little bit. I'm waiting to see what John has to say about that match movement, but those were the main things that happened. There wasn't a lot of huge spots, really. I didn't feel like in that match, but other than the main one that we seen at the end, that was a really nice box. I felt like off the second rope. So, we have a way to finish the match. All right, I'll move. Oh, John says I enjoyed Gigi going through the table. Yeah, it was nice to see somebody go through it anyways, and it didn't just get set up for no reason, which rarely happens that it does, but sometimes it does. All right, let's move on, shall we? Main event time. Yeah, Grayson Waller and Braun Breaker in the steel cage. Before the match starts, they actually start brawling a little bit on the outside. Grayson attacked Braun, but Braun ends up getting the better and shoving him in. Before I go too much into depth here, Shawn Michaels did announce before the show started, you only could win by pinfall or submission. You couldn't win by escaping the cage. Very rare that you see that in a steel cage match. Underwhelming. John used that word earlier. I'm going to use that word for this match as well because I felt like this was very underwhelming. I mean, I predicted going in that we were going to get a new champion and we didn't, but I was pretty underwhelmed by it for the most part.
Jesus Christ, is this necessary to be the fucking main event?
I know, right? That's what I was thinking when I was watching it too.
Why wasn't Carmelo Hayes and Apollo Crews the main event?
Right?
It played like a main event.
Yep.
It had all the tools to be a main event. But no, we get this fucking whatever the hell it is. This failed science experiment known as Braun Breaker.
I like Breaker. It's just he's been champion too long, in my opinion.
He's just boring. I think he's boring on the mic. I think he's boring in the ring, too.
I think he's pretty good in the ring, personally, but
I think he's just boring. But well, I think it's also because he's got the wrong matchups, too. Like
that's
the Grayson Waller. Like Grayson Waller. Now it's getting so he's becoming the Brock Lesnar of NXT now. Everybody knows who's going to win the match now. Like he's becoming the Brock Lesnar in his heyday during his first year when he was destroying everyone. That's
right.
what he's becoming now.
Yeah, I can see that. But Breaker wins with not one but two spears. He hits the first spear and then starts talking a little bit of trash to Grayson, who ends up slapping him, and then Ron hits the big spear afterwards to get the 1, 2, 3. They had an okay steel cage match. I mean, it was interesting to see Grayson all the way up at the top of the cage and see Braun going up and tossing him off, I guess. But John's with us. He hated this match. So wrong person won, I felt like.
It's the thing, right? It's very hard to make cage matches interesting for a long time, yet alone a main event.
Yeah.
And this was a bad call, in my opinion. It should not have been a main event.
I'd agree.
It didn't play like a main event. It played like a fucking opener.
Right? It probably could have. It probably should have been the opener, honestly.
And so because of that, because I feel like I got robbed, I just got one thing to say, and that's fuck this match.
Yeah.
It should not have been the main event. They could have. I mean, for Christ's sake, we could have had the 4-way match that could have gone way longer. The 4-way tag team match be the main event, and that could have been way longer.
Right. I wouldn't feels like they rushed but still. Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I'm just too hard on it, but that's just me. In my opinion, I feel I say fuck this match. The match had no reason to happen. You could have had it on NXT. But no,
I mean, they did have it in NXT. It wasn't steel cage.
Yeah, but no, like I find cage matches in general they haven't been interesting since 2003, 2005, something like that. You know what I mean?
I might somewhat disagree with you very soon, but that's all right. That might have been part of their issue too, was that there was not just that one cage match. We knew there was going to be another cage match 2 days later. So we'll get into that. Vengeance Day as a whole, I felt like was a pretty good show. If I was to rate it, I'd say I'd probably go 7 out of 10. I just felt like the wrong main event. The Fatal 4-Way wasn't as good as it could have been. The Triple Threat was pretty dang good. The 2 out of 3 falls match propelled it more. The women's tag match, wrong call. Yeah, I'd give it a 7. That's being a little generous, I feel like.
I'm gonna have to be the bad guy here. Vengeance Day was really disappointing. I feel like there was too many bad calls. I feel like the Dijak match, looking back on it, I feel with him being injured, I feel that was a good call.
Mm-hmm.
But the tag team match, making your longest reigning tag team champs look weak, making the 4-way match was way too rushed. The triple threat match was all right, but the main event sucked. It didn't play like a main event, and I'm gonna have to give it a 4.
Wow.
I'm gonna have to give it a 4.
Johnson's, because John gave it a 2 out of 10.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to give it a 4. 4.5 tops.
I guess I was being very generous then. Yeah, I thought that. I'll knock it back down and give it a 6. I'll put it to a 6. I thought about it anyway, so. Definitely wasn't the best show of the week. We've seen better premium live events for NXT. Oops. Mellow match carried the show in John's opinion. I agree. Mellow and Cruz did. All right. So moving on.
That was such a good match.
Yes.
The rest
Monday
of the
Night Raw.
I feel could have been played on NXT.
Yeah. All right. So we go into Monday Night Raw. You get Edge and Beth Phoenix out first, calling out the Judgment Day because they want Finn Balor and Rhea Ripley at Elimination Chamber. We get Finn, Dominic, and Damian, who say that Beth's on Rhea's on vacation. Beth says, no, she's not on vacation. She's just trying to lick her wounds from that spear I gave her last week. Get back and forth between them, and then eventually Angelo Dawkins comes out as the brawl gets underway, and then Montez Ford comes out, does his crazy crap behind Dominic, and ends up throwing Dominic into the ring. Dominic eats a glam slam from Beth Phoenix. It was a pretty interesting promo to kick off Monday Night Raw last Monday.
Yeah, it wasn't bad at all. It kept my interest.
Right?
She managed to make Dominic interesting.
Right. Very true.
You're a legend when you make someone that's just learning. Now, no offense to his learning abilities, but he's doing a pretty shitty job at learning, but that's just my opinion.
Yeah, I'd agree. So anyway, out of that, we go into the first match, Damian Priest versus Angelo Dawkins, an Elimination Chamber qualifying match. I was really honestly impressed by Angelo Dawkins here in a singles match because it's very, very rare for us to see Dawkins or Ford in a singles match. I thought Dawkins looked really good, though, here one-on-one with Priest.
Oh, yeah.
But unfortunately for him in the end, Priest did his South of Heaven to get the 1, 2, 3, and Damian Priest is going into the Elimination Chamber match for the United States Champion.
All right. I'm going to be honest with you. When I first saw this match, I was like, I rolled my eyes.
Yeah.
I was like, really? We got all that shit to happen just for this? But they both made a believer out of me. Like, for real.
Yep.
Dawkins is really good by himself. Like,
yeah.
A lot of people forget just how good he really is because he's the tag team guy.
Right.
And I think those two had fantastic chemistry. Like, those two had awesome chemistry. And the flow of the match was nice. It definitely made me a believer. So, in my opinion, that's going to be the surprising match of the night, in my opinion. Surprising match.
Yeah. I'd agree with that. John said it's a great match. I would agree. Like I said, they definitely were very impressive for
It was awesome.
not having seen Dawkins that much in singles. Me too.
It's a shame too. They should start pushing those guys solo.
I feel like that's what's going to end up happening. I mean, I'd hate to see the tag team break up if it does come to that. But that doesn't mean necessarily that they will, because I mean, the New Day have won singles gold and they've still stayed the New Day.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and I hate that formula of if you do too many solo matches, your team's gonna have to break up. Like, it's like, why does the team have to break up at all? Why can't they just do their own thing and just be a tag team still when you need them?
Yeah, so tag team that time. Right. Nothing wrong with that.
In my opinion, that's just so robotic. You know?
Right. It's overplayed, really.
Just have the team stick together. Like, have them stick together, and you can still do your thing, and they do theirs. Like, what the hell is wrong with that?
Right. Getting more of that a little bit. From there, they move on. Adam Pearce backstage with Maximum Male Models, who are now officially part of Monday Night Raw. That's what he announces. And Chelsea Green pops up. They do their whole Karen stick for her. She wants a match. We'll get it later. Adam Pearce agrees to give her a match. We move on from there.
Look,
you got something to say about it? Go ahead.
Just stop. Just stop it.
I know you're not a fan of Chelsea Green's.
Just fucking stop. With as good as she is, just all I'm gonna say is just stop. Just stop. Just stop. That's all I'm gonna say.
Anywho, so we move on from there. The next match, Baron Corbin with JBL faces off against Dexter Lumis with Johnny Gargano in his corner.
Match of the night.
What?
Especially after what happened after the match.
I would not say match of the night personally, but okay.
It's not Corbin literally match of the night, but that just made it so much better simply because of,
yeah. I know where you're coming from.
JBL said. He was saying what we were all thinking.
Anyway, Corbin attacked Lumis before the match started, but in the end, Dexter Lumis ends up squeaking out the victory with a different way than normal because he didn't get the submission victory. He actually pinned Baron Corbin to get the win. And JBL was not happy, you could tell. Top 3 for sure matches of the night, John says this match was. It was a pretty good match. I'm not trying to take anything away from these two guys. But.
Okay. I just don't understand the appeal of Dexter Lumis.
He's a pretty good wrestler, but
I mean, when he's not Sam Shaw. But that's all it is. He's literally just took the Sam Shaw gimmick from Impact Wrestling and repackaged it as a new name.
Right.
Like, stop. Just don't. Like, that doesn't make you hey, everybody, I'm a new person because I dyed my hair a different color. I still got the same stalker gimmick I had in Impact Wrestling. Oh, it doesn't make sense? It still doesn't make sense, which is why it failed in Impact? Oh, okay.
Well, we, to piggyback a little bit off of this, Johnny being out there in Dexter's corner, last week you and I had this discussion, and I'll say it again. I feel like Johnny and Candace and Dexter and just need to find the way on Monday Night Raw. But
hold on, wait a minute.
Unintended.
Sorry, I can't hear you over the sound of the ball. I can't hear you the sound of bouncing. I can't hear you over the sound of the bouncing. Hey, that's just Triple H dropping the ball this time. Okay.
We'll hopefully see something better coming with things. Dexter did pick up the win again, so he's only had one loss, I think, since he came up. But
like, John says, really dropped the ball on Johnny Gargano and Candice LeRae and Dexter Lumis, even The Miz. Like, since this whole transition and over to Triple H and Power, they've really dropped the ball with him.
Yeah, I kind of would agree with you, honestly.
This time, a few years back, Miz was Intercontinental Champion.
Right.
And he hasn't been anywhere since going to Raw.
For the most part, you're right. I mean, he was WWE champion for like a week or two, but I mean, we know how that went. Anywho, back to Raw. Byron go backstage, and Byron talks to Becky about the main event. But more importantly, what happens next? The Beast, Brock Lesnar, comes out. A happy Beast, even though things went the way they did the week before. Brock's out there. He's got a contract and calls out Bobby Lashley because he wants another match with Bobby Lashley after Bobby had eliminated him from the Royal Rumble. Brock was very hilarious, really, in this promo. I mean, even mentioning at one point, talking about his wife and how after a couple hours, 4 or 5 hours in bed with her, all he can think about is Bobby Lashley.
I just want to point out, Cornball Lesnar is so fun.
Right.
This corny Lesnar that we're getting, this cheesy, corporate, smiley, whatever the fuck he's supposed to be, this Lesnar is hilariously bad. But in all the right ways, if that makes sense.
It does.
He's so bad, he's good. It's cringe. But it's by design.
Right.
It's by design. He can still be the monster that he is, but just with a smile and a cowboy hat. And I fucking love it. Like, I absolutely love it.
Me too. John says my favorite version of Brock. I think I would actually agree. I think this is my favorite version of him as well.
He has a lot, in my opinion, he has a lot more personality, and he can go out. And you can tell that Lesnar's having fun with this, too.
Right.
You know, you can tell he's having fun with it.
That is true. So
he just needs to change the theme song. Change the theme song to Rhinestone Cowboy, and he could do the little cowboy dance and tip the hat. That would be so funny. Brock Lesnar could do it. Think about it.
He probably could.
Rhinestone Cowboy, and he just starts dancing the square dance in the freaking boots and the hat, and he tips the hat over, and you have the little wheat sticking out of his mouth.
Yeah, Brock mentioned how he couldn't hunt, he couldn't eat, he couldn't do anything without thinking of Bobby Lashley ever since Bobby eliminated him from the Royal Rumble. And then he calls out Bobby. Bobby comes out. Bobby says, I'll have my lawyers look at this and I'll get back to you on it. We're going to look over this contract. I'm not going to sign it right now. And Bobby Lashley actually pokes the bear's nose, so as to speak. Pokes Lesnar's nose before leaving, or trying to leave. Save a horse, ride a cowboy would suit him much better, John says. Wow. Either one of those two would be interesting for Brock. But anyway.
He could pull it off, man. I'm telling you. Just some funny ass thing like that. Just no one would expect him to come out to any of that stuff, though.
Right? That's true. Bobby goes to leave, but Brock grabs a hold of him, turns around, and hits an F5. The crowd chants one more time, and Brock obliges. Bobby Lashley gets a second F5 before Brock Lesnar leaves.
It's looking like they're building up for their match at Mania. It's looking like not at the Chamber, but probably Mania.
We'll see.
If they do it at the Chamber, I'll be surprised.
We'll find out. We'll get into that a little bit later. We then go backstage.
And like the freaking Crown Jewel match did. Lord, we don't talk about that.
We go backstage to Candice LeRae, Johnny Gargano, and Dexter Lumis, and Dexter has a picture of him, and you see in the background Nikki Cross in the picture that he supposedly drew. And then Nikki's actually in the background, and Candice tries confronting her as Nikki runs away. So that was that. Then we move on back to action as we get Carmella facing Candice LeRae, Mia Yim, Mijin, and Piper Niven in a fatal four-way match to determine the last participant in the women's Elimination Chamber match. I would say this was actually a really good fatal four-way match between these four ladies. All four of them got their good spots in there. I personally don't agree with who won it, but it was still a pretty good match. And in the end, Carmella did pin Candice LeRae off of Piper Niven hitting her move, and Carmella got rid of Niven. So
because why wouldn't Candice LeRae eat the fucking pin, right?
Right? I mean, it makes sense with how things have been going for her since returning, really.
Look,
It sucks, but
I'm not going to go on a huge tangent about Carmella. Everyone knows how I feel about the most beautiful woman in all of WWE, Carmella. We know that. But
hey, she's not going by that no more.
Believe it or not, Carmella made a believer out of me. Uh-oh.
Really?
What? 2 times over the span of a month? First the Young Bucks, now this?
Right?
He actually gave the Young Bucks props for a good match, and now he's doing the same for Carmella? You're damn right I am. She actually made a believer out of me. She didn't, when she's not doing the heelish, like, prissy tactics, you know, and she actually goes out there and wrestles like we know she can, she's actually decent.
True.
And with her being married to Corey Graves and pretty much being trained by him, well, as much as he can do. But
right.
I do agree with who won, but I disagree with who fucking lost, because I'm so sick and tired of seeing that over and over again. I'm so tired of seeing Candice LeRae get buried over and over again. Give her something, for Christ's sake. Give her a fucking lint for all I know, dude. Give her some lint for dust bunnies or something. Come on. Like, can she go out there and wrestle a broomstick and get a win? Like, for Christ's sake. She needs a win more than anybody right now. Yes, Carmella is just coming back. And yes, Mia Yim needs a win too. But
she does.
Candice was over like a motherfucker. So just turn her back to the Poison Pixie and let her do her thing. Or send her back to NXT. Because if that's the fucking case, you may as well just call her tomorrow and say, look, we don't have anything for you. We're tired of jobbing you out on TV, so we're just going to put you on NXT.
Right.
Because honestly, even though she was decent over there, she performed a lot better because it wasn't as fucking saturated as it is on Raw right now. Sure. And I think that's the big problem. It's oversaturated. And if that's the case, send her back to NXT. She doesn't need Gargano with her. Send her there by herself.
Or maybe, hear me out here. There's supposed to be a draft coming up not long after WrestleMania. Maybe you draft them because you know Johnny's going to go with her wherever they go because they're married. Send them over to SmackDown. New landscape might help because Raw just doesn't seem to be the spot.
And actually do something with her. Like, actually do something with them. Like, that's the biggest problem that I have with Gargano right now. You're not doing anything with him.
Right.
I mean, yeah, it's like, well, what, are you blind? They literally just had a match. Yeah, but what's it going to lead to? Nothing.
He's in the Elimination Chamber for the U.S. title.
Yeah, but it's still not going to lead to anything. I have my thoughts on that, but I'll get to that later. But
I almost feel like what they possibly had planned was a reunion for him and Tommaso Ciampa, but Ciampa went down with the injury, So then they had to change plans, and they just haven't figured out exactly what they want to do with Johnny since then.
You know, there is
That's
a
what I
perfectly good title. There's a perfectly good title with the same competitors going for it over and over again that you can go for.
Yeah, U.S. title that he's going for.
Mm-hmm.
John says Piper Niven should have won this Fatal 4-Way match. I agree. That's what I felt like should have as well. He's very upset about Carmella winning. Candice LeRae clearly doesn't know the way, John says. I agree.
I think with Piper being repackaged, she really could have used a win here.
Me too. That's what I felt like. But it is what it is. I'm glad with what we eventually see, which we'll get into in a minute. They then go backstage to Baron Corbin and JBL talking, which you were mentioning here. JBL officially dumping Baron Corbin, saying that he's a waste of space, pretty much.
Waste of TV time.
Yeah. The main thing I caught really during this was you see in the background MVP talking to Cedric Alexander and Shelton Benjamin, and they're shaking hands as the end of the segment comes. So,
for the love of God, please do not let Baron Corbin join the Hurt Business.
Oh, I'm sure Baron Corbin's got nothing to do with the Hurt Business because that was all going down in the background, away from JBL and Baron Corbin. What I did see is that JBL is going to be off TV. They don't have any plans to use him going forward, unfortunately. But
that sucks.
We'll see what happens to Corbin from all this. But yeah, it does. There was talks. Somebody thought maybe they would pair JBL up with Cameron Grimes and have Cameron debuting on the main roster with JBL, but apparently that wasn't in the works. So and then they move to showing Candice LeRae again, and Piper Niven comes up to Candice and starts bullying her a little bit and telling Candice to stay out of her way, not to cost her a match again. And Mia Yim comes in and makes Piper leave pretty much. As it seems like Mia and Candice are still a tag team. Then we move on to the Alpha Academy going up against Cedric Alexander and Shelton Benjamin, who come out with MVP in their corner. John mentioned finally, I think that was towards Shelton and Cedric and MVP kind of reconnecting there. You get the Alpha Academy versus, I'm going to just call them the Her Business, even though they're not the Her Business yet. And this was the best I've seen Cedric Alexander and Shelton Benjamin look since the end of the Hurt Business, to be honest. I mean, they looked really good in the gauntlet match a couple weeks ago, but I felt like they looked even better here 2-on-2 against the JBL dumping Corbin. That's what he was saying finally too. Yes, I agree with that too. It was about time for JBL to dump Corbin because the whole new wrestling god thing was not working out. But yeah, I just felt like Cedric and Shelton did really great here. I mean, it doesn't hurt that you got Chad Gable on the other end, and Gable just a jet in the ring. But I was very impressed with this tag team match.
Well, I was reading about main event, my fault. I'm glad that I think they could have done a little bit. I think they could do a little bit better on some things. But I'm just going to say this. Fuck Corbin. But anyway.
I'll pass that into the tag match.
Yep. I don't even have nothing to say about this. Surprisingly.
Nothing, huh?
Yeah, to be honest, I got sidetracked reading about main event and wasn't paying attention.
It was a really good match. Cedric Alexander did pick up the win with the lumbar check on Chad Gable. It was the first time in quite a while that we've seen Cedric Alexander actually hit the lumbar check on anybody, but Gable sold it really well.
Okay.
And it's nice to see Alexander and Benjamin back on the winning way.
All right, let me just. All right, this is where I get a little bit of heat. Um, I feel like Chad Gable's ship has sailed. I think we know where he's going to stay around. I think now it's at that point where every time we see Dolph Ziggler in a match, we know the results already. Now it's every time we see Chad Gable in a match, we know the results. And that's sad because the dude is very talented.
Agreed.
And he just needs to get, it's just the freaking, he needs to get the backing. And he doesn't have the backing. You know?
Yeah, you and I had this discussion last week too.
And it's just so bad, man. It's so stupid. I know Ziggler's got his comedy thing going on right now and doesn't really care, but doesn't need it. But Gable needs it. He needs a win of some sort. I mean, absolutely nothing taking nothing away from Cedric Alexander. Seriously, like he's been pushed, then stopped, then pushed, then stopped, then pushed, then stopped. How long is this push gonna last? 2 weeks? A week?
Right.
I'm like, if you're gonna push somebody like that, do something with them.
Yeah. I get that. Like I said, I feel like they just Alpha Academy has run its course and Gable needs to venture out on his own for a change. I mean, the only time we've seen Gable really on his own was that whole, God help me for even mentioning this, but Shorty G stint. And that was beyond terrible. But it could be under Triple H's regime. I feel like a singles run would be so much better.
You just had to go for the low blow, didn't you, there, Tony?
Well,
we were playing fair. We were playing fair, and you just had to go low.
Yep.
See, why you had to mention the Shorty G thing? Why'd you have to do that?
To prove a point.
That was terrible. That was terrible. That was such a stereotypical thing, too. Because he's short.
All right.
So dumb.
He's taller than Rey Mysterio and a lot of the other guys that were on the roster at the time. So.
Yeah, and for God's sakes, they can't say nothing about being short when we had our world heavyweight champion being Rey Mysterio. For Christ's sake, the last cruiserweight champion was Hornswoggle. Are you serious?
He was not. The cruiserweight title's been back since.
That's the last time I saw it, and then Leo Rush won the NXT version.
Gonna say there was a lot of people that held the actual cruiserweight title before Leo Rush after Hornswoggle did when it returned. So, but we're not gonna go down that rabbit hole right now. We got a lot more to
leave
go.
That rabbit hole alone.
So then they go backstage. Yeah.
Anyway,
they go backstage to Kathy Kelly talking with The Miz, Rick Boogs, and Adam Pearce. Excuse me. She was talking with The Miz backstage, and then Rick Boogs was there too. And Miz was saying how he wasn't prepared for that match last week. If he was been dressed and prepared, then things would have went differently. Said some bad stuff about Adam Pearce because they're just outside of Pearce's office, and Pearce overhears it. And Miz gets put into a rematch against Rick Boogs this next week on Raw, which Miz didn't seem too happy about, and Rick Boogs was. He booged out. Chelsea Green popped up, and Pearce told her that she has her match, and it's up next to get to the ring. So Chelsea Green goes out to the ring, and her opponent, the Empress of Tomorrow, Asuka. Through this match, we see all 5 of the other women that'll be in the Elimination Chamber with Asuka come out. And Asuka and Chelsea had a decent match. That's all I'm going to say. I'm not going to say great, good, or bad, but it was decent. In the end, Asuka picks up the win, as everybody would figure. I just
don't understand the logic behind doing this to Chelsea. Like, the WWE is the only company that I know that does this shit. Like, it doesn't matter how many new owners we get, they all do the same shit. It's always got to be one. It's like, oh, you're big over here? No, we can't have that here. You could use that. And why the fuck do you got her having this terrible fucking gimmick, by the way? This Karen bullshit gimmick. Hell, if I was Matt Cardona, I wouldn't re-sign either, knowing this is happening to her.
I say let's let it play out and see where things go, because there could be more than what we see going on.
You get jobbed out at the Royal Rumble. You get jobbed out here.
You got decent spots in this match.
Like, what is going on?
Anywho, after the match is over, Bianca Belair comes out, wishes all the women luck, mentioning how she won the Elimination Chamber and had to win the Raw Women's title at WrestleMania last year. So she looks forward to seeing who can weather the storm and win the Elimination Chamber to face her at WrestleMania this year. Then we get the moment of the night, in my opinion, the best part of the whole show. Cody Rhodes and Paul Heyman segment.
Ah, yes.
Like I said, the segment of the night.
Everybody wants, see, all I want is World Heavyweight title, and everyone wants to get personal.
Yep.
Well, I'm going to take Roman Reigns' title personally, and I like the delivery of both these people.
Right, me too. This segment was
Cody did well, man. He keeps reminding me why you don't sleep on a Rhodes.
Right.
And I'm really glad that he reminds me every single week on why his last name is Rhodes. Because right when you think the Rhodes family is out, they go and remind you not quite.
Exactly. John mentions he got goosebumps from this segment. I will put this out there. There's been a lot of chatter on social media. I see it everywhere. I know Cody sees it and hears it too, of how a lot of people think that Sami Zayn should be in the main event spot at WrestleMania. I feel like this promo here, they did exactly what they needed to try and pull things back towards how they want the fans to be interested in this match, and made it so people are more invested in Cody and Roman. I mean, yes, Cody even mentioned at one point it might not be Roman. It could be Sami Zayn he faces at WrestleMania. And he wished Sami luck at Elimination Chamber. But, my God, Cody had Paul Heyman in tears at one point during this promo. And that was real. You could tell from that. So,
yeah, he shared a personal story. And when he shared that personal story,
it caught Paul's heart.
It was good, man. It was good.
Damn.
It was really good. And you could tell Cody was emotional in that too.
He was. And we've seen Cody emotional with other things since he's returned, but this was something.
We've seen him in AEW, how emotional he can get. Oh my God, please. But this one felt different, you know?
It did.
This felt completely it felt like, wham, 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 get behind me.
Right.
I'm a human being just like you. Please love me, notice me. Here, it felt organic. It felt like I can relate because I've been there, type of thing, you know?
Yeah.
And I like it. I liked it a lot.
And the interesting part to mention here, Paul claiming that his last conversation with Dusty that he ever had was Dusty saying how Cody was his favorite son, but Roman Reigns was the son he wished he had, always wished that he had. That led to Cody mentioning exactly what you said at the top part of this. Everybody's got to make it personal when all he wants is the championship. And all he's going to take is the championship. From what I've seen, reports afterwards, Cody and Paul did this segment all on their own. Michael Hayes was the producer for it, but the only thing Michael told them to do was a little bit of the physical part that happened right at the end of it. That was it. All the words and everything else were Cody and Paul themselves. Which to me, it just goes to prove the point that I feel like has always been true. The best stories that you get, or the best rivalries, feuds, build up that you get in wrestling, is when it is personal, when somebody's bringing in real life stuff. And it's not just this stuff that's written for them or made up for them from a writing crew. It's more personal. And that makes the best stories, moments in wrestling. All right. We move on from there. You get Montez Ford versus Elias in another Elimination Chamber qualifying match. How do you follow up that promo? These two tried. They had a pretty good match. I honestly would say that I kind of enjoyed Angelo Dawkins and Damian Priest's match more so than this one. But
Elias hard carried that match.
But I was glad to see Montez Ford win. I'll put it that way for this one. It was nice to see Ford win, seeing him going into the Elimination Chamber. Austin Theory was at ringside doing commentary for the match. It was all right. But...
okay. I felt like Elias carried the match.
Yeah.
I do.
I'd agree.
I think he did a lot of the big spots. He did a lot of the big moves. And, he didn't have to do much of anything.
I mean, Ford got his moves in too, but
I just felt like Ford could have done more.
Yeah. I was more impressed by Angelo Dawkins in his singles match than I was by Montez Ford.
A lot better. Dawkins, you can tell who has their in-ring skills.
And not to take anything away from Ford when you put it that way, because he is an it's very impressive athlete.
Oh yeah, he's definitely athletic, but when it comes down to Dawkins or Ford, yeah, you already know. Right. Dawkins.
All right. We go from there into the main event. We got Bayley versus Becky inside the steel cage. And before going into the end of it, I felt like these two had a really good steel cage match. It was better than the steel cage match we seen at NXT Vengeance Day. We said that much.
Oh yeah, it was a lot better.
Yes, very much so better. You knew that Damage Control was going to try and get involved and stop Becky from escaping at points, which they did do. I would say, though, it was very unexpected. Becky mentioned earlier that she might have had another play in her book, so as to speak, that would come to happen here at the end of it. I was very surprised by what we did see at the end of this match, though. And in a good way, though. So,
yeah.
I'll break it down for anybody who didn't see it. Damage Control was trying to keep Becky out. Io Sky was getting ready to climb the cage, or was climbing the cage. I think she was climbing the cage. And then Lita's music hit, and she came out and actually gave a hand to Becky, took out both Io and Dakota outside the cage. And Bayley tried getting after Lita, which the door was open. Lita slammed the door into Bayley's face, and Bayley turned into a manhandle slam. 1, 2, 3. Becky wins the match. I did not see that coming.
Yeah, that is. Now, the rumor has it that is leading to a 6-woman tag team match.
Yep, this upcoming Saturday at the Elimination Chamber. That's what I seen.
Yep, they're saying Becky, Lita, and Trish.
Yes.
Versus Damage Control.
In Trish's hometown, which makes a hell of a lot of sense.
They're really coddling to the hometown.
That they are. maybe perhaps a little bit of that is because they know that their hometown, well, home country guy isn't going to win in the main event, but they want to have something good for the crowd.
And on top of that, speaking of that, while we're talking about Canada, I don't know if you heard or not, but Bret Hart opened up his restaurant.
Oh, yeah?
He's got a restaurant there. I don't know if you knew that or not. He was there on opening day. He put the belts in the window and stuff. Mm-hmm. I saw a video of it because Natalia shared it on her Instagram. Natalia couldn't be there for the opening, but
steel cage match. That takeover about Bret. Really good steel cage match. The right person won because you knew Becky had to get a win over Bayley this time. We'll get into that here in a second. I got on the side here, but it was really good. I was very happy with it. And Lita and Becky celebrated after. The last time we seen Lita, she was getting beat by Becky over in Saudi. So that's part of why I felt really surprised to see Lita be the one that returned. There was no rumors of it happening either, and she wasn't even hidden backstage, but yet there was nothing. Nobody knew ahead of time that Lita was there at Raw. So, in Orlando. All in all, I would say this was a pretty solid edition of Monday Night Raw. I think I'd give it, for rating, I'd give it 7.5 out of 10. I felt like there's a couple things that pulled it down just a little bit.
Oh boy. Well, here's where I become the oddball in. So make sure you take your little notes, ladies and gents, take your little cameras out because you're about to be part of history. This one was surprisingly good. This Raw was actually surprisingly good. For what it was, it was pretty good. And I'm actually going to have to give it a little bit higher. Just a little bit. I want to give it an 8, 8.5.
Nice.
But the Loomis match kind of took it down.
Yeah.
But even a Carmella match was actually good.
Right.
So, but because they managed to actually make Carmella interested again, I'm gonna have to boost it up a little bit. And that cage match was banger. That was a fucking banger cage match. So I have to.
Yeah.
And you made me squeal like a little schoolgirl when I saw Lita. I was like, "Oh, that's Lita! Oh my gosh!" Okay. So I have to.
Right. So this is what's on tap for Monday Night Raw, which starts in about 40 minutes anyway. So we're going to run through these other shows real quick here soon. They got on tap tonight. Bronson Reed going one-on-one with Mustafa Ali. Rick Boogs and The Miz in that rematch. Miz is host Miz TV with Seth freaking Rollins as his guest. 6-woman tag match as the 6 competitors from the Women's Elimination Chamber will face each other. And then Brock Lesnar and Bobby Lashley are set to do an Elimination Chamber contract signing.
That could totally 100% go exactly as a contract signing should.
Probably.
So let's start this hashtag right now. Hashtag Table Lives Matter.
Right. All right. Moving on to NXT.
I skipped it completely, as I always do. You already know.
Might not have wrote down a whole lot of the segments, but I do know I'm going to talk about a few of them. Talk about the matches here first. First one, you got Sol Ruca versus Zoe Stark. They had a really good match. They're still early on in Sol Ruca's NXT journey. But in the end, Zoe Stark picks up the win. Afterwards, Zoe tries beating up Sol some more, but Sol ends up hitting her finisher, which is amazing, and taking out Zoe. John, if you want anything to say from NXT, just go ahead and I'll mention it but I'm going to go through this kind of quick otherwise. And then we got Dante Chen versus Dabba-Kato. Dante Chen actually got a decent amount of offense in here, surprisingly. I thought it was going to be pretty much a squash match. But in the end, Dabba-Kato did win. We didn't really get much of an explanation from him for why he turned on Apollo Crews, and we didn't see Apollo at all. Kato pretty much just saying
just dropped.
I don't think it's going to be dropped. It's just Apollo, I have a feeling, wasn't there for some reason. What's that?
I said I was reading that he got injured, like some sort of injury at Vengeance Day.
Oh, that could be. I hadn't seen that. Hard to tell. Isla Dawn then with Elbow Fire in her corner went against Tatum Paxley. They had done a backstage skit with Isla involved earlier in the show. Isla Dawn got the win. Easy win over Tatum Paxley, really. The two of them, Isla and Elbow, went to attack Tatum afterward, but Ivy Nile came out with a chain to fight him off. Ivy is injured, had an injured wrist, and that taped up. The show started with Carmelo Hayes coming out there to brag about winning the 2 out of 3 falls match and how he should be next in line for the NXT title, which JD McDonough came out and said that he's the one that should be getting the title shot, not Carmelo, and that Carmelo hasn't beaten him yet, which leads into the next match, Carmelo Hayes versus JD McDonough. And they had a really good match. I would say it was the match of the night for NXT. If you watch any match from there, you should go back and watch that one. But in the end of it, we hear some ominous music. Yes, John return time, as we get Asar back in NXT. Ilya Dragunov returns as he's making his way out. Carmelo rolls up JD, gets the 1-2-3. Dragunov lays out Trick Williams at the same time that Carmelo rolls up JD. And then goes right in the ring, goes right after JD McDonough, as JD's the one that injured Ilya Dragunov and took him out of action for the last couple months. Dragunov didn't get his full vengeance here. That'll come probably at Stand and Deliver. Good to see Ilya Dragunov back again anyway.
Yeah, he's always a treat to watch.
That he is. Valentina Feroz then next comes out with Wendy Chu to face Lyra Valkyria. This is an all right match. I mean, Lyra Valkyria has been pretty impressive, I think. But Elektra Lopez kind of tried to get involved, and things didn't go the right way, and Lyra ends up getting the win over Valentina, as Elektra and Wendy are both obviously still back and forth trying to get Valentina to do the right thing or the wrong thing there. And then we get Odyssey Jones going up against Channing Stacks Lorenzo with Tony D'Angelo. You would think with Odyssey being the bigger guy here, he would have got the majority of the offense in here, but Stacks looked really good in this match and actually picked up a win. So that was good to see Stacks actually win for once. He didn't really even need Tony's help. He actually picked it up on his own too. So Tony was there, but. And then we'll move on to the main event match. But before I do that, I want to mention that they had talked to Roxanne Perez backstage at one point, and Kaden and Katana both came in during the promo and interrupted her and said, hey, everybody's talking about how you retained, but yet nobody wants to talk about how we lost and we got cheated out of our titles. It kind of was a heel turn is what it seemed like in the promo for Kaden and Katana. And they ended up challenging Roxanne to find a friend because she doesn't have any, supposedly, according to them, to face them in a match next week. And just before the main event match, they would catch up with Roxanne backstage, and Roxanne says, I found a partner. Next week, it'll be Kaden and Katana versus myself and Meiko Satomura. Will be returning as well. That'll be nice.
That's cool.
Personally, I would, if they're going to go that route, I would have rather have seen Kaden and Katana hold on to the tag team titles and drop it to those two, honestly. The new tag team champs did get the celebration, multiple different segments backstage. things happen. Nothing important, though, really. Main event match, you got Chase Hughes, Andre Chase, and Duke Hudson against Pretty Deadly. And Pretty Deadly looked were dressed not usual for Pretty Deadly here. They looked like bums. But they seemed off at the beginning part of the match. But by the end of it, Pretty Deadly actually got themselves gathered together and picked up the win when Elton Prince pinned Andre Chase after spilt milk. It was a really good tag team match. After the match, they throw Gallus standing up in the box area or whatever you want to call it. They look down on Pretty Deadly. It looks like it'll be Pretty Deadly and Gallus going forward for the tag titles. Yeah, that's all the segments. Then we move into the main event segment of the show, the end of the show. Ding Dong, hello, hosted by Bailey, who's wearing a sling on her left arm. She apparently injured her arm in some way, shape, or form in the steel cage match. And she has Toxic Attraction out there. They bickered back and forth throughout it, but it looked like Bailey had gotten them back together and gotten them to decide, oh, we'd be better off if we worked together and try to tag team time. Maybe we even go after your girls in Damage Control and go after the women WWE women's tag team titles, which the crowd loved that. So things look like they're all hunky-dory. The two got up and were kind of celebrating together as Bailey looked on, and then bam! JC Jane hits a super kick on Gigi Dolan and then tosses her head first into the door. As Toxic Attraction is no more. From what I read, Gigi Dolan might be taking about a month or two off now to kind of sell that whole situation. So JC Jane will be on her own going forward. Pretty interesting plot twist, I guess you could say, to end NXT. A pretty decent show. Again, Mello for me has match of the night, even though it wasn't the greatest finish to the match, but it was still a good match, good show.
There's a lot of Carmelo Hayes just seems to be just killing it lately.
He does. They're probably about six. It was about on par with Vengeance Day, I would say, because some of the matches could have been a little bit better, but on par my way for rating wise. But I'd say 6.5 to 7, somewhere in there. Anyway, moving on. I'm looking forward to seeing where they go with Stand and Deliver anyway, because Braun Breaker wasn't on the show at all, neither was Grayson Waller.
Oh boy, it's my favorite, my trigger word as of lately. Dynamite.
We get MJF versus Konosuke Takeshita in a world title eliminator match to kick off the show. Man, Takeshita just keeps impressing me more and more every time I see him, I feel like.
Dude, it just seems like they're finally doing something with him. It's the dude's getting better and better and better and better and better and better.
He does too.
And also really the fact that I think that I gotta point out here real quick. Sorry to interrupt you, but
okay.
Kudos to MJF for giving him all that time.
Right. I agree with that.
He could have very well went in the back and said, "You're only getting 2 minutes, and I'm jobbing you the fuck out."
Right.
But he gave him enough time to really show the fans, and he's making a believer out of me.
Good. Yeah, I'd agree. John says good match. I agree with that. This was a really good match. The point I want to take out of it, MJF had Takeshita in the oh wow, I just had it on the tip of my tongue too. Salt of the Earth submission hold, not once but twice, and Takeshita would not tap out. He actually had to do a modified version of it. I'd float over into like an armbar more so, even more of an armbar, to actually get Takeshita to tap out. So that was something that stuck out to me, and I think it's something that can be remembered by, because usually when MJF locks in that salt of the earth on anybody, they're not very long into it tapping out. So, now what happened afterwards, I'm not a fan of, and a lot of people were up in a roar about it. Afterwards, MJF puts on the Dynamite Diamond Ring and hits Takeshita, and you get the blade job. Way too heavy of a blade job, because Takeshita was bleeding out buckets pretty much there. MJF beats him up a little bit more until Bryan Danielson finally comes out and makes the save. But I'm all for seeing some blood. I know WWE's away from it because of PG era, but there's got to be something different or better you can do here, because it looked like he was losing way too much blood. Personally,
I thought this was an Eddie Guerrero JBL match for a minute there.
Right? I don't want to spend too much time on it.
I'll just keep it short. I don't feel like it was necessary for that blade job towards the end. I don't think it was necessary.
Right. Me either. You just needed to do the ring shot and that be it. They didn't need to do it.
Just the regular old match would have been fine.
Right.
No need for that. No need to oversell things. And that's the big problem that I have with AEW right now. They're just overselling shit. Like, if I get, like, kicked in the balls, am I going to have to put, like, a blood pack in my mouth and, like, spit blood now?
Right. Anyway, then we go to a video from Samoa Joe talking about how he won the TNT title and he's going to take out Wardlow. And we move on to the Bunny versus Jamie Hayter in a world title eliminator match. They had a pretty good match up until the end. Jamie knocked Bunny senseless pretty much, and they had to call for the finish pretty early, I feel like, than what they were planning on. Jamie Hayter gets the win. We'll go backstage as they're celebrating. Jamie, Britt, and Rebel, and to Renee talking with Saraya and Tony Storm. They call in Leva Bates, and Leva Bates ends up getting beat up by the Mean Girls, as John kind of put it.
Or as I call them, the modern day PMS.
Yes. Nothing really much else to mention about that. Lexi Nair talks backstage to MJF about the match coming up between Bryan Danielson and Roosh, and potential match going on. MJF brings up the story of what happened supposedly back when he was in high school with Liv, and supposedly getting a blowjob in his car and made him crash into a pole, and then he pulled her over into his seat and made it so that she was the one that got in trouble for it or whatever. 80% true, not the Liv part. The Liv part wasn't actually true. It was with some buddies when it happened, from what I've seen since, but that's what that is. Then we get the Garcia-Guevara gauntlet match. Ricky Starks easily takes care of both Daddy Magic, Matt Menard, and Angelo Parker. And then he has a decent match with Daniel Garcia, except for at the end, a masked man. It's the Judas effect on him on the outside of the ring. Danny throws him back and rolls him back in the ring, gets a 1-2-3. And then we find out it was Chris Jericho under the mask. Wow, there's a shock.
As if the Judas effect wasn't very fucking obvious.
Right. And then we go backstage. Renee Paquette catches up with Billy and the Acclaimed, talking about their main event coming up. And then from there, they move on to Renee catching up with Brian and Takeshita and the trainer backstage. And then Jose, the assistant, had locked him into the trainer's room. MJF comes out and tells Aubrey to start the match and start the count out Bryan Danielson, because he couldn't make it to the ring as Roosh was in the ring. Bryan Danielson ends up knocking the door open, and him and Takeshita take out take out Preston Vance and Jose, the assistant, rather. Danielson makes it to the ring before Aubrey gets to 10, as she very slowly counted. Really good match.
It was more obvious that he was going to make it to the ring.
I know, right? Really good match between Rush and Bryan Danielson here. Danielson was busted open the hard way for this match. Man, what else can you say about Danielson's matches though in this lead up to Revolution? Because they've all been great matches in my opinion. This was another really good one.
About banger after banger. Yeah, that's what Bryan Danielson's been doing the last few weeks.
Yeah, the last 5-6 weeks. Anyway, Bryan ends up getting the win, as you figured. So we will get Bryan Danielson versus MJF for the AEW World Championship on March the 5th, I think is what the date is, at Revolution in a 60-minute Iron Man match. Afterwards, MJF comes down and beats up Bryan Danielson, lays him out, puts him in the salt of the earth twice, and beats up some staff members who try and breaking it up as well. But MJF has to deal with it. He's got the American Dragon at Revolution for 60 minutes. So then Tony Schiavone talks with guys from the Practical Jokers who apparently stole Chris Jericho's bat. Floyd, who cares? We go into the 6-man tag team match for the World Trios titles. Your favorites, the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega, defending against AR Fox and Top Flight. I will say, I was very impressed with the Bryan Danielson Rush match, but I felt like this match actually might have took the show for me, to be honest. Again, surprisingly. I mean, I haven't been as critical about the Young Bucks as you, but I haven't really been that big of a Young Bucks fan, but they're making them teaming with Kenny Omega, it's turning me around somewhat, I feel like. They just seem really good with Omega.
I will say this. This match was decent, but I feel like the Danielson Rouge match was better.
Yeah, I could go either way with it.
In terms of storytelling and in terms of like chemistry.
I get that.
And unpredictability.
Right.
Like I felt like in that match, I felt like there was no way the Young Bucks were going to lose that.
True.
I felt like the tag team titles were not in any danger at all whatsoever.
Right. The trios titles. In that match
between Danielson and Rouge, I genuinely felt like, well, maybe Danielson's not going to win this, man. I don't know.
True. There was a point.
Because there was times where I felt like Takeshita was going to beat him. There were times where I felt like Timothy Thatcher was going to beat him. I thought it was over. Right. I thought it was dead to rights with Thatcher.
Right.
There was multiple times where he hit him pretty damn good and he fucking kicked out. I'm like, how? What? Okay.
Right. Well, I would say the Danielson Rouge match and the Takeshita MJF match were my 3 of the 6, were the 3 top matches of the 6 on this show, in my opinion. Now, this is where I give my rant for the week. The main event, you get the Guns versus the Acclaimed. I did not agree with this main event and even before the match took place, and I really didn't agree with it after what we've seen happen at the end of the match. I was not surprised to see the Guns win the tag team titles here. It didn't happen the way I predicted it would, but I did tell you last week on this show and that I felt like the Guns were going to win. They did. Why this had to be put on as the main event, I have no idea, because I felt like it shouldn't have been. Again, like Vengeance Day, it just felt like this wasn't the right call to have this match as the main event of Dynamite. It was I won't say it was terrible, but it was a good match, but it just felt out of place to me. You got nothing on that?
I just want to walk up to Tony Khan sometimes. With the main events like these, I just want to walk up to Tony Khan and just sometimes just look him dead in the eye, just smile, say, buddy, pal, I absolutely love it, and it's a great honor to finally meet you. Then I want to bust you in the fucking face and say, get it together. What are you doing?
Right.
But then there's other times where it's like, dude, you know what? I just want to look at him like The Rock. You know what? You all right. And just walk away.
Yeah.
This show was very hit and miss.
Right.
I felt like the Danielson Rouge match should have been the main event.
I'd agree. I felt like that with a lot of Danielson's matches over the last few weeks that they easily should have been main event over what ended up being main event.
Putting him in the mid, dude, putting the bangers that he's been putting out, putting him in the middle of the card should be illegal.
Right, I agree.
It played like a main event. It's story told like a main event. Why the fuck wasn't it the main event?
Right.
And oh, I'm not gonna start. I'm gonna have to take my Adderall, dude. Be quiet.
I'd give it I'll do a 6.75 out of 10. What I'd give that show.
You get a straight up 5 just for pissing me off the main event.
Fair. All right. SmackDown started off with Paul Heyman out there with both the WWE and Universal Championships with him. Something you don't normally see.
Oh boy.
Paul had a really good promo. I will mention he said, spoiler alert, Sami Zayn is not here tonight. Paul Heyman and spoilers go hand in hand. However, on this night, not so much. Because as Paul's getting finished talking, Sami Zayn pops up behind him. Cody and Paul's segment on Raw was really good.
Dynamite had that effect on me. Sorry about that.
Yeah, I guess so. Paul and Cody had a really good segment on Raw, but Paul and Sami had a pretty damn good segment here on SmackDown as well. Not quite as good as Paul and Cody's, I felt like, but it was still a really good segment. As Sami told Paul he's going to take the titles from Roman, as he pretty much told Paul the same things he told Roman last week, is what I felt like.
Dude, like, I just want to point out this Sami here really making a believer out of people, and I like the story that he's telling with this new character. You know, I like it. I like the story they told here in this segment, and just overall, just chef's kiss, man. That's all. Just absolute chef's kiss. This is perfection. Like throughout the night was perfection.
Oh yeah, I'd agree. We go from them two talking in the ring. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead. I was just savoring the moment.
Yeah, we go from that into you see the Sheamus and Drew and Ridge and Butch backstage talking. Get a staff member in on the banger after bangers chant. Adam Pearce talks with Hit Row earlier in the night. They show, and Hit Row wanted a match with Sheamus and Drew that they didn't end up getting, that they were prepared for in the finals. So they get that match. If that's what you want to call it. It was a glorified wow, I just drew a blank on the word I was looking for there.
Squash match.
Squash match, yes. That's exactly what I was like.
Pretty much he made him look like a bitch.
Yes, Sheamus and Drew did make Hit Row look like bitches. Ashante the Adonis was the only legal man in there. Top Dollar never got tagged in. He did get tagged, though.
Michael Cole and them were burying Hit Row. Like, what is your problem with Hit Row?
I'm not sure, but
because
like you mentioned last week.
All because Top Dollar made one diss track on you.
Right. I think, like you mentioned last week, they kind of just need to send Hit Row back to NXT. Honestly,
they should have never hired them back then. You know what I mean? At that point, they should have never hired them back.
I'd agree.
Well, what was the point? Mini rant, not a big one, but a small one. What was the whole fucking point in hiring them back if you were just going to, I don't know, not get them a single fucking win since coming back? What was the whole point?
They've gotten a couple wins.
Yeah, but none noteworthy.
True.
You know, like they've been.
I still say it's missing work.
You call it banger after banger. I call this jobber after jobber.
Yeah.
Oh, we got a legend in the chat right now. We got D'Lo Smith in the chat.
Oh, we do. Hey, D'Lo, good to see you, man. Not much. So after the squash match, you get a video of Valhalla and the Viking Raiders, who still have an issue with Sheamus and Drew. We're gonna see more of those two teams apparently.
That just made me roll my eyes.
Yeah, I know how you feel about it. We're not gonna go into that. They go to Jimmy Uso, who's on the phone trying to get a hold of his brother, and he can't for the tag team title match. Karrion Kross and Scarlett shown talking backstage about the main event. Jimmy's shown again, still trying to get a hold of his brother. And then we get Lacey Evans versus Carmen Jerez. Another squash match. Lacey Evans wins quick with the Cobra Clutch. I could care less. D'Lo says, "Sup, Busta?"
What up, D'Lo?
We move on to Jimmy. Sorry, go ahead.
You go ahead. You go on, move forward. It's best that we just do what we do with every Lacey Evans match. Just forget about it ever existed and move forward.
Yep. Go backstage to Jimmy talking with Paul Heyman as he still hasn't gotten a hold of Jay. Jimmy tells Paul he'll be here. Jay will show up. I know my brother. I can just feel it. Then we go backstage. Sonya Deville bugging Adam Pearce, and then Chelsea comes in. Adam's fed up with both of them, and he puts them into a tag team match later on in the show. D'Lo says WWE is
prepared to lose one match. Now you get to lose two.
Yeah. D'Lo says WWE is preparing Jey Uso to be the next tribal chief. Perhaps. We'll see. We move on to Ricochet and Braun Strowman versus Jimmy Uso, as it looked like. But then as oh, wow. I just drew a blank on her name. The ring announcer, anyway, goes to make the introduction for Jimmy Uso defending the title solo. Jay stops her and points up, and you see Jey Uso doing the Shield entrance, walking through the crowd. As we do get Ricochet and Braun Strowman versus the Usos for the SmackDown Tag Team titles. Easily match of the night.
Oh, yeah, the storytelling in that match was absolutely amazing. Like,
yes, it was.
Their chemistry wasn't the same, the same dominating fashion that the Usos are used to doing.
Right.
Like, you actually, because he worked so hard to try to get his brother back, they're there, but it's that constant wonder on, are they going to have each other's backs?
Right.
And they were playing on that, and it worked so well.
It did too. And the finish, I mean, Ricochet hitting that shooting star press off the top rope onto Jimmy, who he thought was legal, only to get hit with the Uso splash by Jay for the 1, 2, 3. That was perfection, in my opinion.
That was indeed. Like, did I mention Chef's Kiss?
Yeah. It was great.
Man.
That match was really good. And then we go back.
Definitely match of the night. Like, you could definitely tell they built the show around this segment.
If I could be honest, I think this was actually probably the match of the week.
Oh yeah, definitely. Between this one and the Danielson match, it's tied between those two. Honestly.
Yeah. Then they go backstage segments with Ray talking about the main event. The Usos and talking a little bit backstage. Jay saying he's not really sure if he's back in the fold or what's going on right now. Paul Heyman was eavesdropping. Asked Jimmy what if Jay's had anything to say. Jimmy says no. Leads to what we'll get into later. Natalya comes out and talks, and she gets interrupted by Shayna Baszler. And Natalya says that Shayna's nothing more than a Ronda Rousey ripoff, pretty much. Ronda eventually comes out, and three of them talk, and they get into a fight. And Shotzi tries to come out and help out Natalya, but gets taken down too. Shayna and Ronda walk out with the upper hand. Then we move in. Jey Uso in the parking lot, getting ready to leave. Who does he come across? Sami Zayn, of course. Sami tells Jay we're on the verge of something big happening, something that he knows that Jay's wanted to see for a long time, and that Jay could still be on the right side of history. That he, Sami Zayn, acknowledges Jay. And he gets a fist bump from Jay, and Jay tells him that he better leave. A really good segment between those two. Nice to see continuality between those two.
Can I just tell you how much of a fucking gem Sami Zayn is?
All right. Especially right
He's
now
a
with this
gem.
storyline.
He's such a fucking gem. Like, and can I mention again Chef's Kiss with this whole story? Just saying.
Right. And they move backstage. Mega Morant with LA Knight. LA Knight just says he's moving forward. He's done with the past with Bray Wyatt, and it's all about LA Knight, and it's his game. Usual.
I was very vocal about his match. Definitely worst match of the night. I get it. They were doing it safely, trying to be safe, but how do you bounce back from that?
If anybody can, LA Knight.
Yeah. No pun intended, because, did a lot of bouncing away from your opponent, but yeah.
Right. Then they move into the Chelsea Green and Sonya Deville versus Raquel Rodriguez and Liv Morgan match. Wasn't quite the same squash as what Sheamus and Drew had earlier, but it was still pretty much a squash match. Liv Morgan hits Oblivion after Raquel hit her finisher on Chelsea to get the win.
But why, though? Like, that's all I got to say.
Why was Chelsea even on SmackDown? She's supposed to be on the Raw roster.
Can I walk up to Triple H and smack the shit out of him, please?
Sometimes I feel like he needs it. They go backstage, Madcap and Emma talking about the main event match. And then they show
don't even get me started. Oh, okay, I'm going to shut up.
Then we go on to Michael Cole with the sit-down interview with Charlotte, who claims that she didn't just teach Rhea a lesson last time. She was more so trying to show her the way, and that she'll teach her a lesson this time at WrestleMania when she beats her again.
Yeah, it's like, because we totally never seen Charlotte Flair versus Rhea Ripley before.
It's still going to be a good match.
What is this, like the 9th time?
Only the 3rd, I think.
They fought before. They fought on Raw. They fought for the NXT title at Mania. They fought a few times on Raw.
2 or 3 times.
And they fought a few times on pay-per-view. I think they fought at Payback.
Then we move into the main event match, the Fatal 4-Way to determine the number 1 contender for the Intercontinental Championship. You see the Imperium sitting up in the skybox. You got Karrion Kross versus Madcap Moss versus Santos Escobar versus Rey Mysterio. It was a pretty good 4-way. I felt like there was too many 4-ways really this week, but I was dumbfounded, I guess is the word you could put here, by who won this match, though. I guess they wanted to throw a curveball at everybody, because nobody in the right mind would have picked Madcap Moss to win this match, but yet Madcap Moss pinned Rey Mysterio to win this Fatal 4-Way match, and will now face Gunther for the Intercontinental Championship this upcoming Friday night on SmackDown.
Just
why? All I got to say about that.
I already took my Adderall, and I'm risking an overdose right now, so I'm just gonna like.
They all got good spots in that match, but
just
I just don't
why
agree
the
with
fuck at all, dude?
Right.
Like, why would anybody, like, ever? Can we not? Like, no. Can we not put one of the greatest wrestlers in the world against Madcap fucking Moss?
Hey, it could end up being a squash match. Who knows?
It's an easy victory for Gunther.
It should be. And then they move backstage. Jimmy Uso back there, and Paul Heyman comes up and says, "Oh, things can be deceiving on TV, but per the orders of the tribal chief, Roman Reigns, he wants you boys, you and your brother, to sit at home and watch from Toronto next week, and doesn't want you guys coming to Toronto."
Yeah.
And that's the way SmackDown would end. Great storytelling with the whole bloodline stuff, but I felt like most of the matches otherwise kind of brought it down. I want to give it higher, give it a 7 out of 10.
Matches sucked. The bloodline saved the fucking show. 9 out of 10, fight me.
Yeah.
Just for the simple fact that the bloodline saved the show. If it wasn't for the bloodline, watch it for the bloodline shit. That's it. Just the rest of it, just
including the use of
fucking skip everything else.
All right.
The main event. A couple minutes here. I sorry to interrupt you, but I know what they're planning on. They're planning on doing 2 things with Rey Mysterio, because they're planning on doing a tag team with him and Santos Escobar. I don't know if you saw. Yeah, they exchanged masks.
Yep.
So it looks like they got a little bit of a tag team thing going on.
Maybe. We'll see. We'll see if they play off of it on TV. Move into Rampage real quick. I'll go over this quickly. Butcher and Blade and Kip Sabian were in a trios match to kick off the show against Wheeler Yuta, Claudio Castagnoli, and Jon Moxley. It was the best match of the 4 they had on the show. Claudio picks up the win with the pop-up European uppercut on the Blade. But that's the main thing from there. Everybody got their moves in. All good stuff. Ruby Soho beat Marina Shafir in a decent match. Jungle Boy Jack Perry squashed Ryan Nemeth. He used a different finisher, though. He didn't use the snare trap. He actually got a pinfall victory. Jack Perry did. And then in the main event, Orange Cassidy beat Lee Moriarty to retain the All-Atlantic Championship. Afterwards, Satnam Singh, Jay Lethal, and Jeff Jarrett came out and beat up those 2. The Best Friends came out. And then the Acclaimed and Billy Gunn actually ran them off. So the good guys celebrated as the show ended.
I really wish that we would stop seeing a wild slap nuts appearing.
Yeah. That was it for Rampage.
Jeff Jarrett.
I'm not even going to rate it, so.
Garbage. Most Rampages are trash, so 0 on.
If you go watch anything, I would say the only 2 matches worth watching would be the Trios match and maybe the All-Atlantic Championship match between Orange and Lee Moriarty. But
yeah, Lee Moriarty is a gem. Just saying.
He's pretty good, yes. But anyway.
I MLW. He's really good.
Yeah. With that, D'Lo and John, thank you for being in the comments section. I usually do plugs here, but we're running out of time. It's that time. So, quick little plug. This upcoming week, I'm looking at doing 5 o'clock, 5 or 6. Saturday I'm off. We'll either do 5 or 6. Just check on social media. One of those 2 times, Eastern time on Saturday, we'll do the prediction show for Elimination Chamber, since it is on this Saturday. We'll do our review show, hopefully, back on Sunday at 8 is what I'm planning. There's no Super Bowl to mess with it this weekend, so we should be good for that. Other than that, unless you've got anything else you want to mention, we'll close this out.
Indy Hartwell and the Creed brothers made an appearance on Main Event.
Yes, they did. I did see something about that.
They lost, but that's a sign.
They lost to the brothers.
Yep,
it is.
They could.
They've been using a lot of NXT guys on there.
Yeah, they could. That could be a sign they could be getting called up.
Possibly. All right. Well, that's it for us. We will see you guys later this week. Have a good one.